about how to begin as a real estate investor, how I would start if I were you today. Not much different really than I started, except I'm a lot more knowledgeable than from day one. And I'm actually traveling on a road trip. And so tonight's webinar, I have a webinar every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Be sure to get in it. It's going to be much like this, but it's going to be Q&A through Zoom. I like everybody. You should be very, very critical of any mentor that you're considering hiring anyways. But because so many of them out there have no history, no proof of claims or anything else. And so you really got to be careful. And I like people to scrutinize hard because I'm the real thing. So one of the things I want to really share with you is probably, I could start with the end. I've got the most important thing. The most important thing. In fact, I'll just go ahead and start with that right now. Is you need to feel good. In other words, that should be your ultimate goal, is to feel good and set the standard for feeling good. Well, what's the standard for feeling good? It's being secure. It's not having bills that run you. It's like, in other words, you run, I call it, the dog wagging the tail rather than the tail wagging the dog. When you get so many bills, or you get more than you can afford, or it's just taking up. Like, in other words, living check to check. You don't ever want to live check to check. And probably, aside from learning all the great lessons that I've learned as an investor, I bought my first property when I was 19 years old. I had to keep my overhead low, and the reason that came about is because I started a business. I started a brand new business. Anybody that's ever started a business, you got to watch every penny. Unless you got a big backer or you got parents that throw money at you, which I had neither. You really have, because it's sink or swim. And it's always sink or swim. And that's why I really love business people and entrepreneurs that get in my class, because they understand that concept. They have a discipline to save. And that's probably really important. If you already have a discipline to save, listen, you're way ahead of most people. Most people just, I'm telling you, it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people, live on 20% of the money, and the other 20% live on 80% of the money, because they're just smarter. They just think it through. And not that you can't convert your thinking. I've seen people do it. I've seen people change, but I've never had to, because from day one, started at a disadvantage. I was raised in a trailer park, a big part of my life. My front bedroom was a couch in the living room. I rolled out a sleeping bag, and that was bad. But let's get back to the thing. Is number one is keep your overhead low. There's nothing more important than that. And I can tell you that everything you buy, try to make everything you buy should be an investment. Don't buy it unless it's worth more. It doesn't mean you have to sell it for more than you paid for it, but don't pay more for anything than it's worth. You should always have the mindset of getting everything below value. In fact, you should just make it really. And every car I bought was worth more. And every car I bought was worth more. Every car I bought was worth more than I paid for it. And so it didn't matter if I was buying trucks for my business. I'd drive the heck out of them. And then when I sold them, I could always sell them for as much as I paid for them after wearing them out. Because I had the discipline to make every deal a good deal. Some people get tied up into trying to look good. You feel like you got to keep up with somebody who might be a little older than you, a little further along with money. That's a nightmare. Don't ever feel like you got to do that. And you never know. You never know. That guy, as good as he looks, he may be just struggling. He may be struggling, you don't know it. Which reminds me of a lot of the subject to folks, people in sub 2, going after sub 2 deals. What I've seen is these communities of people that they're all smiling and pretending to do well. None of them, and I feel like there's shame if they admit that they're failing, so they all smile and say how great it is, even though inside they're just crying and dying. If you look at the sub 2 communities that are out there that are, they talk about how great it is, and this is another phenomenon. They talk about how great it is, even though they've never done anything. And then what's even worse is the guys that say they're investors. They say they're doing things, but they don't share. They don't share any profits. They don't share anything. And then you come to find out that they're promoting, trying to get a 10 or 15% commission with new students. And so think about that. Many students go in with the idea that they're going to become investors, and then they start to, the reality, they realize, hey, sub 2 is highly improbable. It is highly unprofitable. So even if you get in, you're not doing yourselves any favor for the most part. And believe me, the first property I ever bought was a sub 2, and I did make some money on it. But that was a little bit different, okay? I had the discipline of buying something in an ascending economy, and also I was 19, and it wasn't quite like that, but it was very similar. It was an all-inclusive trustee. I'll explain that to you later if you get in the webinar tonight, 7 p.m. Which, by the way, 7 p.m., go to the links below, sign up for it, you'll get notified. I'm traveling, so I'm not going to have this elaborate setup showing all the stuff that I bought in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Listen, right now, ask your best question. Anybody that's interested in making money, listen, you can't be a wallflower. You got to man up and ask questions. If somebody's telling you that, hey, yeah, I'm going to show you how to make money, say, prove it. Show me what you made. And if they say, yeah, this guy made 10 grams, we'll say 10 grams is peanuts. That's crumbs. That's nothing. Have a higher standard. Believe me, if you have such low standards, if you're going to pay 10 grand to learn how to pay 10 grand, you got the wrong channel. You just don't have, you're not smart enough. So raise your standards. Raise your standards. And I don't want to make this a bashathon on people that buy into stupid stuff. Hey, Tom, you're going in and out of sound. Okay, well, I appreciate that. I'll bring it a little closer. Is that any better? Can you tell me, Art? Anyways, so, I can tell you right now, you don't see me collaborating with fake gurus, because that's all fake gurus do, is they collaborate with each other. They have nobody to brag about how much money they've made them. In other words, they don't have students that done well, or if they do, like Pace Morby's got some of the worst students I've ever seen. I mean, Mr. 74, Mr. 84, I've done 74 deals, but I'm not going to tell you about even one of them. That's what happens. And so you're left to believe, I guess, there's people that just think, I guess their imagination takes them away to thinking that this is some fantastic deal. But if you're smart, you go, this guy left out a very important part of this equation of why I should believe him. He's leaving out, where's the money? Where's the money? Deals does not equal money. Deals means zero. You can have a bad deal. You could lose your ass. You go bankrupt on a deal. So deal means absolutely nothing. Okay, good. Thanks, buddy. Anyways, so look, 7 p.m. tonight. Go to the links below, sign up. I'm on the road, but listen, I guarantee you're not going to find a more transparent mentor or a more knowledgeable one. And I don't care. I'd love to debate even Ben Malla. I love Ben. He's a good guy, and he's the real deal. But even he's got 10 years less experience than me, and he doesn't really focus on the kind of properties that are the most important to you guys that are watching. Properties that are under, whatever, 200,000, 300,000. I bought a property for 900,000 just recently. It was a super deal. Can't wait to share it with you. I bought 2 houses for about 200,000 under market. One probably 250. The other one maybe probably 150, but I would average 200,000. And the people that you see out there telling you how easy it is and how they're actors. They're not showing you anything of substance. Believe me, I show you the deals that I bought, and I show you what you should buy. And I'm going to show you that tonight. And that's really the theme of it, is how to start. Because I'm going to show you how I started. I'm going to show you the assets that I bought when I was young. I'm going to describe them to you probably, because I'm not probably going to have a second screen. But the thing is here's the beauty of starting broke, is that you have to get a good deal. You can't make it happen, especially if you're operating on your own dime. When you're broke, and that's how I started broke, I could what I offered was only good for me, because I couldn't buy it otherwise. In other words, I had to structure an offer that I could afford, and I couldn't afford shit. And so then it was the seller that's making the decision, saying, okay, I'll take it. And that's kind of how it is for my whole life. In other words, every offer I offer, it's not what the property's worth. It's what I want to buy it for. I'm deciding how much money I want to make on that deal. And sometimes I'm deciding, sometimes maybe I get a little greedy and I lose it. In other words, sometimes, I could have made 300 grand or something. But I lost it because I was trying to make 350, okay? Or maybe I'm trying to make 35-40% on the deal. It's okay. Guess what? This is what you'll learn, and my students know this firsthand. And I got many millionaire students, by the way, and you will meet them. You will be a part of that group, okay? And I'm not talking about a bunch of fanboys like you get in the communities saying they made their best friends. That's absolutely pathetic, okay? You're not going to make your best friends, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to see really smart people that you're going to want to be like them, and you're going to want to outdo them. In other words, it's competitive. We try to outdo each other. We all try to make more money than each other, right? Because we want to make money, and we're always happy when one another make money. But we want to be happy more for ourselves than to be happy for somebody else in the group. Believe me, it's wonderful. And I really love it. Believe me, I've been, I've been watching the students follow my footsteps, almost exactly in some ways. But they're getting small deals, hitting double and singles, as I call them, and then sometimes a triple, and then a home run, and then I got a couple guys here recently, grand slams. They made over $2 million on their purchase. I think I got 3 of them now. Have made over $2 million equity day one, and they're realizing that equity. They're turning the deals. And believe me, when I say they made $2 million, they probably made closer to 3 and 4. But I'm just going to say 2, just 2. I always try under promise and over deliver, right? Just something any good business person does. But so look, if anybody's got a question, ask. Don't be a flower on the wall, for God's sakes. Listen, you gotta step up. Thank you. Let's see what somebody wrote here. Always excited to see my friends win. Oh shit, again. Okay, always excited to see my friends win. Also irritated that I didn't find it first. Yep, that's good, Josh. Yeah, I like it. Josh is also, never want to leave out Josh because he's one of my best land guys, right? He's doing exactly what I did with land, almost exactly. And he's also creating his own new way, by the way. He's got some different circumstances where he's at that gives him some advantages over what some of us have to deal with land in different areas. But guys like Josh, he's happy to share in the class. As like say, I'm always restraining. There's so many times I'd like to share more than I do here, but I can't do it because it wouldn't be fair to the students. And the students are, they pay a premium for it, and you can too. But they're learning. They're learning as they go, and they're developing some of their own unique qualities. Everybody's different. In fact, Josh actually mentioned that when I interviewed him. Be sure to watch Josh's interview at FlipAnything USA. And Josh, he's probably 42 now. I remember I did a birthday message. His wife, really nice family, had me do a birthday message for him, I think when he turned 40. But this guy, I've watched him become a millionaire in land. I watched him quit his job and become a full-time investor. I think he's got a side gig doing because he's become such a specialist at what he does. So he can actually sell some of his talent to doing what he does because he knows so much about the game with land in his area. So look, I just, I don't beg anybody to do anything, or I don't want to plead, but I mean to tell you, what's really hard is when I see somebody, because I like people with money. I don't dislike people with money. I like people with money. When I see somebody that's had the discipline to save, 100 grand or 200 grand or 50 grand, some young guys that have saved 20 grand, I'm impressed with. You've got just part of the equation, but you got a really big part of it, but you're not acting on what you can do with the rest of it. You can take that money that you're just simply saving, and you just need to have a little bit of guidance, and you can make a proper investment, and you can see that thing multiply by 3 every time you buy. You put in 10, you'll turn it into 30. Put in 100, probably turn it into 300. It 100% can happen. It can be much better than that, and it can be a little bit less than that, because our standards are high, right? Our standards are high. We don't buy anything that we can't make money on. And I just, and look at, some people like to get high on the stock market and Bitcoin and all this other garbage. Listen, You have to buy that and become a speculator and hope that it goes up in value. Imagine you can buy a stock that you see it's worth $100, right? And you can buy it for 40 cents. Okay, it's worth, or just say it's worth $1, and you can buy it for 40 cents. That's what real estate is. You can see what it's worth if you know what you're talking about, know what you're doing. You can see what it's worth, and you buy it for less than it's worth. You can't do that with stock. All you can do is buy it for what it's worth at the moment and hope that it goes up in value. And so many people fail at that. Way more people fail at that than succeed. That's why the people that really seem to make the money in stocks are people that actually do it with other people's money. By the way, Grant Cardone, now Pace Morby, it looks like, and Chris Crone, what do? They're trying to get other people's money. They're trying to get other people's money. When you spend other people's money, you can fail miserably and still make money because you're failing with their money. You're not failing with your own money. But guess what? Don't get any ideas that you're going to put together a thing and you're going to buy apartment buildings. People are not going to give money to a noob. They're not going to do it because if you don't know what you're doing, it's never going to happen, right? You got to demonstrate that you have some smarts. Anyways, keep your overhead low. Get in the webinar tonight, and I'll see you there. Ask tough questions. Don't believe what anybody says to you. Question them, make it, prove it, whatever their claim is. Thanks for watching. See you later. And hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. See ya.